All right, so today we're going to be diving into a topic that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about autism and drowning.
It's a tough one, but really important.
Yeah, and you might be surprised to learn that people with autism are 160 times
Wow.
more likely to die from drowning than the general population.
That's a really jarring statistic.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is.
And so we're going to try to unpack this issue today using a blog post from Cheap ABA called The Alarming Truth, Autism and Drowning, Why Water Safety and Swimming.
That's right. And, our goal today is to kind of understand why this risk is so high and what we can all do to protect autistic individuals.
Yeah, and I think we've all had, some experience with water safety, whether it was, those childhood swimming lessons or, family rules about never swimming alone.
For sure.
But have you ever stopped to think about how those experiences might be different for someone with autism?
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
The challenges and needs can be, vastly different.
Yeah, and this blog post really digs into one of the, I think, biggest factors, which is wandering and elopement. It's a common behavior for autistic individuals, and it's not always about just wandering aimlessly.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's often driven by a desire for like a specific sensory input.
So it's not just about getting away from something. It's about being drawn towards something.
Exactly. Imagine feeling compelled to reach like the sparkling reflection of sunlight on water.
Oh,
Or being drawn to like the rhythmic sounds of waves crashing. It's a very powerful sensory experience.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when you consider how intense sensory experiences can be for someone with autism.
Yeah, and this is where things can get dangerous.
Right.
If an individual with autism can't communicate their intentions or understand the risks involved, this sensory seeking can lead them into really unsafe situations around water.
The article even mentions a statistic that for people with autism who die before the age of 21, drowning is the most common cause.
That's really striking.
It is.
It really underscores the urgency of this issue and why we need to be talking about it.
I was really struck by the section on sensory seeking and how water can be especially alluring for some autistic individuals.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, I remember being completely captivated by the patterns of light in a swimming pool as a kid.
Fair.
But for someone with heightened sensory sensitivities, those experiences could be even more intense, right?
Absolutely. Water has so many sensory elements. The way it moves, the sounds, it makes the reflections, even the feeling of it on your skin.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly stimulating.
And this ties into another crucial point the blog post brings up, which is a lack of water safety skills. And it's important to understand that this isn't about intelligence, but about access to appropriate learning environments.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Traditional swimming lessons with their crowds, echoing noises, all the splashing can be incredibly overwhelming for an individual with sensory sensitivities.
Yeah, it's like having the volume turned up to 11.
Exactly.
Especially for someone with auditory sensitivities. And we can't forget about the social communication challenges that often accompany autism.
Right. Communicating in a loud, crowded environment can be difficult for anyone. But for someone with autism, it could be a huge barrier to learning.
Yeah.
Which is why those adapted swimming programs are so crucial.
Yes.
They offer a much more structured and supportive environment that takes individual needs into account.
Exactly.
They often use things like visual cues instead of just verbal instructions.
Right.
And they work in much smaller groups to reduce sensory overwhelm.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference.
It really does.
It does. One thing that really stood out to me in this blog post was the emphasis on caregiver responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle.
Oh, for sure. But awareness is like the first line of defense.
Right.
Caregivers need to be aware of this heightened drowning risk.
Yeah.
Especially if the individual with autism has a tendency to wander or elope.
So being proactive, not just reacting after something happens.
Exactly. It might involve things like securing home environments. Having a plan in place if elopement does occur. And even considering GPS tracking devices for those who are prone to wandering.
That's a good tip. I like that. Layering those safety measures.
Right. And it's also important to remember that this isn't about like placing blame on caregivers.
Yeah.
It's about empowering them with knowledge and resources to keep their loved ones safe.
And part of that is advocating for better resources in general.
Oh, absolutely.
Like those adapted swimming programs we talked about.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
We need more widespread access to these programs and water safety education that's specifically designed for autistic individuals.
It almost feels like we need a broader shift in how we think about water safety.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing how to swim, but understanding the diverse ways people experience and interact with water and the unique risks involved.
I like that. A more holistic approach to water safety that considers individual differences and needs.
Because at the end of the day, we want water to be a source of joy and recreation, not fear and tragedy. And that's true for everyone.
Well said. Even though this deep dive is focused on autism, the truth is water safety is something we should all be thinking about, regardless of who we are.
For sure.
It's never too early or too late to learn about water safety. And make sure we're taking the right precautions.
Exactly. This is especially true if you're a caregiver for someone with autism.
Absolutely. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to advocate for their needs and create a safe environment.
Speaking of advocating, the article mentions that breaking the silence and taking action is critical. What does that look like in a practical sense?
Well, for starters, it means having open and honest conversations about the risks of drowning for autistic individuals. This might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's crucial to raising awareness and breaking down stigma.
So it's about normalizing those conversations. So families feel empowered to reach out for support and advocate for their loved ones' needs.
Exactly. And it's about advocating for more accessible and inclusive water safety programs in our communities.
And, you know, those actions, no matter how small, can truly make a difference.
They do.
Whether it's sharing this information with a friend, donating to an organization, or even just starting a conversation in your community, every step counts.
Absolutely. It's about creating a ripple effect. By increasing awareness, understanding, and support, we can create a safer world for individuals with autism.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation, and it's so important that we're shining a light on this often overlooked issue. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the startling statistics to the importance of awareness and proactive measures.
And we've talked about the need for adapted swimming programs, caregiver support, and a more holistic approach to water safety. It's a multifaceted issue, but one we can definitely tackle with the right knowledge and actions.
So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with a call to action. This week, I challenge you to do one thing to support water safety for autistic individuals.
I love that.
Maybe it's researching local organizations in your area, volunteering your time, or simply sharing this deep dive with someone who might benefit from this information.
Yeah, every step we take, no matter how small,
Yeah.
contributes to creating a safer and more inclusive world for everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into autism and drowning. You know, as we've been talking, I've been thinking about the emotional impact of this. You know, we've talked about, all the statistics, the strategy.
But it's important to remember, these are real people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the constant anxiety and worry that caregivers must face, knowing that their loved one is at a higher risk. And if something were to happen, the guilt would be unimaginable.
It's heartbreaking to think about.
It is.
This isn't just about statistics and safety measures.
It's about the human side of this issue.
It's the human side of it.
The fear, the grief, the sense of helplessness.
And we need to make sure that those caregivers have access to absolutely resources and support.
And mental health services are so crucial. And so is fostering a sense of community. So they don't feel alone in this.
Creating that safety net, not just for the individual, but for the whole family and the whole support system.
Exactly.
Because let's be honest, sometimes it's just hard to talk about these challenges.
You're right. There can be a lot of stigma surrounding autism. Families may feel ashamed or afraid to reach out for help. They might worry about being judged or misunderstood.
And that's why breaking the silence is so important.
Absolutely.
The more we talk about these issues openly and honestly, the more we can chip away at that stigma and create an environment where families feel comfortable seeking support.
It's about fostering a culture of acceptance and understanding around neurodiversity. We need to celebrate differences and create a world where everyone feels safe and supported.
This deep dive has been a powerful reminder that knowledge is truly power.
Yes.
It is.
We started with that shocking statistic about drowning risks, but we've gone so much further, you know?
We've explored the reasons behind
We've explored the reasons.
That's increased risk.
Learned about practical safety measures. And even delved into that emotional impact on individuals and families. And most importantly, we've talked about solutions.
Right.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the complexity of this issue.
Yeah.
But we're not powerless.
Right.
There are concrete steps we can all take to make a difference.
Absolutely. Whether it's, educating ourselves and others, advocating for better resources and programs, or simply offering a listening ear to a family in need.
Right.
Every action counts.
It does.
It's about creating that ripple effect of change.
So as we wrap up this episode,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a thought.
Okay.
Imagine a world where everyone, regardless of their neurodiversity, can experience the joy and wonder of water safely.
Wow.
That's the world we're working towards.
And it's a world we can create together. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into autism and drowning. We hope you leave feeling informed, empowered, and inspired to make a difference.